is going to be cool.
The topics and opinions expressed on the Dudes and Beer podcast are intended for an audience of 18 and up and are solely those of the host and guests. They neither reflect the opinions or values of either the sponsors of Dudes and Beer or your mother. I mean, seriously. Have you ever heard these guys? They'll talk about anything.
Whoa, hey, you think they're going to show it? They'll probably just blur it out. Whoa, check it out, Beavis.
Grab your beverages and turn up your interweb. Solving the world's problems 12 ounces at a time. It's Dudes and Beer. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to episode 71 of Los Dudes and Beer. I am Chris Jordan, your host. With me, as always, here in the cave at the Austin Music Rooms is Nelson Kugle and Stephen Bishop. How you doing, guys?
Woohoo! We're doing great, man.
So we've been kicking it. We've been talking some deep shit this evening, and we've decided to go deep this evening. We've decided to drill down into some topic and into some crazy stuff. My brother's going to kill me for not having him on this episode. He's going to listen to it. Huh? He's going to listen to it, and he's going to send me a message, and he's going to be like, fuck you, I hate you so much. Because these are the things that we love talking about, that we literally sit out. It was a lot of the birth of Dudes and Beer, and the concept of Dudes and Beer was the times that my brother and I sit out on his patio and just have beers and
talk about shit.
Just talk about all this stuff, man, and just lay out reality in the universe. And that's what we're going to get in tonight, is the reality in the universe and the concept of a multi-dimensional universe and world.
Because this reality might not even be real.
Exactly. Right. That's the question that we're going to come to bear tonight, right after this message from our sponsor.
Hey, he don't even have a license, Lisa.
Three drunk drivers.
Hey, everybody. Chris Jordan, host of the Dudes and Beer podcast here. Has this ever happened to you? Tired of looking in your rearview mirror after a couple of drinks with friends or worrying about no-refusal weekends and DUI stops? Are you planning a night on the town and want an easy, safe way to get around while still having fun? Well, Fare is the ride service for you. Simply download the easy-to-use and free Fare app from the Google Play Store or iTunes Marketplace and use promo code DUDES10 every time you ride with Fare to save 10% off your ride. Have a Fare driver you liked riding with? You can not only give them a review and tip, but you can add them to your preferred drivers list on your Fare app and request them every time you ride with Fare. You can schedule rides with Fare to pick you up immediately or as far as 30 minutes to 7 days in advance, eliminating the need for last-minute calls and allowing you to pre-schedule pickups in locations other than your home city. Perfect for those traveling for business or for fun. So don't forget to stop on by and download that free Fare app and use the coupon code DUDES10 every time you ride with Fare to get 10% off your ride. That's right, don't forget the coupon code is DUDES10. So be like Dudes and Beer, everybody. Party safe, use Fare, and drink responsibly. And we are back. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be getting into some deep topics this evening.
It's like, don't be a square and take some Fare.
This was Nelson's concept tonight, and I love it. I love it. I love the fact that he brought this to the table.
Hell yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what you want to talk about tonight, Nelson, and lay it down, man. Lay it down.
Well, I had originally brought up the idea about VR, like virtual reality, and how that's coming to state. But what I was also thinking about is how people are talking lately about how our life is like we're like in a dream and we're in an altered state of reality, and there's other dimensions to what we are and what we perceive. And I don't know, it's interesting. Just people's theories, people's aspects, you know, the way science and math has progressed to where we are in 2016, and people are still talking about these kind of things, even with how much we really know and what we can concept. It's pretty dope.
I know some friends of mine that actually are into this, and they actually, a couple of them say that there's a particular time in their life that they felt like some some weird hocus pocus stuff, like a change all of a sudden, and their whole deal they go now on, talking about is like the Mandela effect and stuff like that to kind of back up what
and that's more time travel.
Right.
That's more than dimensional.
Yeah.
One of the things in the episode just before, I believe it was episode 68, as a matter of fact, when Rob came in and we started talking about stuff, and I was talking about the entity that I witnessed, not only behind me in a mirror, but at the foot of my bed.
And it left you paralyzed.
Yeah. And that was a suspension and distortion of time. Same thing as whenever you're in an auto accident, things go into slow motion. And to me, though, it goes beyond that because I firmly believe in ghosts. I've witnessed some crazy stuff. I've just felt presence there.
Right.
I equate one presence with my God and my universe and with what I know to be good. The same presence that I felt when I was called to the altar and called to go to the seminary. But there is definitely a different presence when it comes to malevolence. And I've felt both of those. And to me, the concept of multidimensional is nowhere near science fiction. It has to exist. There has to be another plane. There has to be something else. Just from my experience and what I've experienced. You were talking about the concept of dream and the concept of us basically operating in what would consist from what physicists are saying right now would be like the Matrix.
Right.
Where we're in a living dream and we aren't necessarily aware that we aren't awake.
Right.
Now, one thing that ascribes to is a shared consciousness.
I've heard about that.
So you would have to understand that I'm dreaming and you're dreaming and you're dreaming, and we're all dreaming the same dream here. And like I've told you before,
and that has happened to you.
I've had that experience. I've had the experience where somebody that I know was in my dream, and we both described the same dream to each other.
See, that's amazing.
Well,
that's amazing.
What's also interesting is some theorists that believe in the consciousness theory or consciousness theory.
Yeah,
is they one of the things they like to talk about, which is very interesting, is if you look at the back of your hands and look at the veins, and then you are in a helicopter and you look at the riverbeds. And or the tree roots, and then if you're like from outer space and you look at the rivers and all that, it's all very matched, and it's cool. It's very interesting.
It's very, very interesting. And you start looking at things like mandalas. You start looking at sacred geometry, like we were talking about last time, the cymatics that were used for the Rosslyn Motet, that kind of stuff. And these things are seen the world over throughout generations and throughout cultures that span the globe. And it's very interesting to understand that. And where did they get this knowledge from? Because, hey, this is some pretty high science,
right?
Like in all truth be told, it's some pretty high science to understand and comprehend,
right?
But the same orbit that if there's a viral video that went out a while back that was literally the transit of Venus around the sun, and Venus kind of wobbles around its orbit and stuff like that.
Indigenous tribe knew about this.
And it wasn't even indigenous tribe. If you look at it, it literally makes the mandala for the third eye chakra.
Okay. Wow.
Like the pattern that it makes, and it's the same thing that they use for, I think it's Mulandhara, the top chakra, and it's like, what the Like it's the exact same geometry, you know, and it's wild.
Or
Even
the hexagon on top of Saturn type of deal.
Yeah, the hexagon on top of Saturn, which actually just recently changed color.
Wow, what's
It's
that
been
mean?
blue. It's been blue for years, and suddenly it just switched to like a yellowish green.
Whoa, weird, dude.
Hexagon on Saturn?
Yeah. The top pole on Saturn is actually hexagonal.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a standard pole.
And it's not clouds.
Yeah.
I think they have
Yeah,
I mean, the puzzle
pretty
that what
strange.
makes it and what
it's
keeps
pretty
it that
strange.
way
Yeah,
to be.
it's pretty wild. And you know that's one of the platonic solids. It goes into a lot of sacred geometry, and to me, whenever you talk multidimensional, I do see the dream as part of that. Because I don't know, I guess go ahead.
It's also interesting is the theory about that if we're living in a dream or an altered state of reality, it kind of also really backs up people's belief in what they believe in. Like, you know, like for instance, you've had interactions with ghosts and you solely believe that ghosts are real. I mean, it's probably true in your realm, in your reality. Like those things are true. Like no one can say you're wrong because I've seen them.
Yeah.
But if you kind of step outside the box and think of everyone just lined up on a wall, chained together in some white room, it makes sense. Like it's in a dream state, and like everyone's interconnected. We're all here. Like there's no one. Like there is everyone else, but we are us.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah. We're utterly individual, and I have ascribed to the fact for years, and I wrote a whole poetry book that was like a philosophic poetry book, just a whole bunch of philosophic concepts put down, and one of them that I put down in that book was the idea of really an interweb between people and internet, and it's the fact of we're all interconnected. You know, when I felt what I felt at work today, it reverberated to other people.
Right.
And that's not necessarily good.
It's like the butterfly effect.
Yeah, you know, and it's definitely a ripple in a pond, and when it hits the bank or it hits an obstruction, it's going to cause another ripple.
It's more of a ripple effect than a butterfly.
Well, yeah. But it's really the concept of you make your own reality,
right?
And that's where I come at it from the interdimensional point of view. You know, it's the fact of we choose what we put out.
Yep.
We choose what we put in. Like it's
power
physics.
Of positive thinking.
Yep.
You know?
Well, not just that. It's the fact of it is a physical system.
Right.
The universe is physics.
Right.
And there is no action without an equal or opposite reaction.
Exactly.
So without you putting anything into it, I mean, even if you look at it as God, and I used to give this example to kids that I worked with all the time. I would give everybody a Slinky, and you got to sit there and look at the Slinky all class until the end. And then you got to play with the Slinky. And it was like, what did the Slinky do while it just sat there? It's still a Slinky. It's still the same representation of your relationship with God. It's potential. That's physics and potential right there. That's energy waiting to be released. But until you actually put effort into it, there's not going to be a return in that energy.
Wow. That's brilliant.
And that's the way the whole universe works. That's the way physics works, and that's the way God works. Until you put your energy into the system.
And energy is infinite, right?
Well, to an extent, yeah. I mean, you know, but you have to be putting. You can't be like trying to fulfill a wish. Believe me, I for years tried to fulfill a wish of passing algebra. You know what God wanted me to do? Study my fucking algebra. Once I put my energy
into it.
Once I put my energy into what I wanted to get out, you'll get out.
it will happen. You know? So it's like you with interdimensional thinking, you really have to think about your impact upon that dimension that you're either drawing from or taking part in.
Right.
You know, because, according to a lot of physics right now, and it's literally like whenever you blow bubbles and then put a bubble on top of a bubble and a bubble on top of a bubble, and it's numerous realities that are merging and right there next to each other. And it's numerous possibilities. You know, each one kind of in that Back to the Future concept, each decision begets a different reality.
Seems like there's a lot of that kind of thinking missing in this world today, kind of, I would say, right? You know, people not thinking about maybe the effect of their actions or what they're putting out there that's going to affect whatever else is around them.
I think that's been like that for a long ass time, though. But I do get exactly where you're coming from.
Yeah.
But what's also interesting is going back to what he was talking about, like the bubbles on the bubbles on the bubbles, and and slowly altered other realities are coming into play. Universe in a Nutshell by Stephen Hawking's circa 96, I believe. He was talking about his theory on how what the actual universe looks like is a sponge. And all those little like dips and bubbles inside that sponge are different universes. You know, the whole galaxy, or galaxies inside that universe. And it's interesting to think about that. I mean, those are almost bubbles. You know, that's what like a foam is. And that's just interesting.
Yeah.
The correlation to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, right now they're on the cusp of interdimensional. I mean, that's one of the stated goals of CERN.
Right.
Is to possibly, you know, create a contact with another dimension. That they could quite possibly do that through splitting different particles. So even if for brief moments in time, there was actually an experiment recently, and it really ticked me off that we didn't come home. Amy and I were in the car. It was our anniversary weekend. All kinds of stuff was happening in life, and but we were listening to Coast to Coast, or not Coast to Coast. It was
Ground Zero.
Ground Zero, and he was doing a live episode where they were supposed to be doing a wormhole experiment.
Oh, okay.
And they were supposed to be doing it on live Skype,
on the internet,
and showing how like infrared didn't pass until a certain amount of time, and they were basically delaying it through this wormhole. And I was very interested to see it, and we got home and just both totally fell asleep. We were just completely tired.
Is that what they call it these days?
Yeah.
And it was live.
Literally, that's what happened.
It was live.
It's not like Luke Cage where we had coffee and then went to bed.
Yeah.
All right? We went to fucking sleep, dude.
We went to sleep.
But I've tried finding it since, and I've found nothing of any results or anything like that.
Man,
and it's kind of disappointing.
Because I remember
but
hearing
understandable as well, yeah.
I wanted to know that.
But it's interesting, the concept of being able to open up a micro wormhole. You know, we've discovered black holes. We've seen these things. We've sent probes to them. I don't think they've reached them yet, but I know that there's one on its way, if I'm not mistaken. I wrote a whole album about a probe going through a black hole and then coming out the other side.
I did see that. I rented that at Adult Megaplex.
I have a funny feeling that they say nothing can survive a black hole. But I don't know. I have this feeling that you know, we can sit here and like science can try and explain things, but something's amazing's gonna happen that they're not gonna expect when actually going through it, or some, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
One of those things where they're not gonna be able to explain, where they thought they figured it out, but something crazy is gonna happen. You know,
as much as I'd love to say they figured it out, they ain't figured Jack out.
Yeah. They figured Jack out.
Jack who?
Yeah.
Jack
well,
Nimble.
Well, it's interesting because since our last episode about the WOW signal and stuff like that, there has been another signal that you know, Stephen Hawking and Mark Zuckerberg are putting millions of dollars into researching because it seems to be of intelligent origin as far as they can tell right now. And the question is, is it alien or is it interdimensional? You know, and that's been something that's been posited by numerous ufologists, stuff like that, is whether or not these beings are actually alien, or whether they're interdimensional, or whether they're even time travelers.
Right. See, I think people get that confused a lot of times with like ghosts that they have and stuff like that. It might not even be an alien they see. It might not be a ghost. It could be something extra dimensional or whatever.
Yeah. Well, and see, I as I said before, I utterly ascribe to the concept of ghosts and things like that being on another plane. So that to me is another dimension. That's kind of like in Poltergeist, where there was a gateway
Through the TV.
through the closet.
Oh, through the cloud.
You know, to be able to go in and get them. That to me is an interdimensional thing going on.
Yeah.
And they even refer to that in the original Ghostbusters, and it was an interdimensional cross rift that was happening. And that's where I come in on that. But as far as dreams go, I am a big believer in dream work and lucid dreaming.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
active dreaming.
Yeah.
Literally active dreaming. Dreaming with intent. And it was something that Thomas Edison did.
Really?
He would take numerous naps during the day and it's basically going to sleep with the intention of solving a problem. You're going to sleep with one specified question in mind, and you're basically repeating that as your mantra as you go to sleep. And as you dream and as you sleep, you search for that.
It's almost like the deepest type of meditation to me, it sounds like, because you're activating parts of your mind that you probably couldn't while you're awake.
It is, but
meditation is awake.
Yeah, meditation is much. Meditation is awake, and it's also much more the absence of thought is meditation. Meditation is reaching a point of stillness where, I've posted a video in Dudes and Beer before where the monkey mind is silenced. You give the monkey mind a job, and the monkey mind's job is breathe. Breathe at this interval. Do this, monkey. And that's your busy mind. Your busy mind then focuses on breathing, and you get to silence everything else. What you're doing in this as you go to sleep is actually hyper-focusing yourself on an intent. So you're actually looking for the solution in problems. And it really operates a lot on, if you think about it, what we know right now dreams to be. Because as far as we know right now, dreams are basically the accumulation of things that we did not get to process during the day, either emotionally or physically, something like that. And that's where fears, like we process our fears that we didn't get to respond to at that moment.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that's why crazy fucked up things happen in dreams. Like we were saying
what you had
in the last episode, about Freddy Krueger and shit like that, where just crazy things happen. Crazy things happen in dreams. You'll be walking down a hallway and suddenly it's sludge, and it's like, what the hell?
Right.
But that means something, and to go into a dream, to go to sleep specifically to look for an answer is really focused. And I did it for a while. I practiced that for a long time, and it's really amazing what you can pull out and what you can kind of coalesce from your dreams if you really learn to, number one, stop drinking a lot before you go to bed. It's helpful. Don't smoke a lot of reefer before you go to bed. That's helpful.
I've noticed lately, throughout my life experience and changes and all that, just normal stuff. But I realized lately a lot of my thoughts and answers come in the morning when I wake up. Like at the moment I wake up, like these thoughts and answers that maybe I've been wanting to know for a while how to figure out. It almost seems like a few minutes prior to waking up or a minute before, they all come to me, and then I wake up, I'm like, oh, I need to do that or this, and this fixes that, and this type of stuff. It's weird.
The biggest question related to that is how many times have you acted on one of those?
Lately, I've been acting about 60% of actually listening to it.
See, sometimes those when you wake up like that, I feel like it's like your mental state telling you, dude, you've got to do this.
Right.
Like, you've been thinking about it, and you've been building up in your subconscious, and you finally go to bed, and you probably don't remember those dreams, and you just wake up thinking, I got to do this, and your body's like, you got to do it now or never. That's how I feel.
No, absolutely, and that to me is where intuition comes in. That to me is the way I used to describe it to the kids that I taught was that little tug at your belly button. That it may feel uncomfortable, and you'll know when it's an uncomfortable moment. You'll know when it's that moment of like, oh, hey, dude, because it's a tug. Like, when it's a bad moment and you need to get the fuck out and be ghost, like, you'll feel it. It'll be a tug at your belly button. You know, it'll be like somebody pulling a fucking ripcord. Other than that, those moments that you're talking about, it's just this gentle little pull. And you have to learn to literally attune yourself to it and think about it and be present. Literally, like, like a monk. Almost, and be present in the moment always, because you never know when that's going to happen. You never know when that magic relationship is going to spark with somebody. I've had so many business relationships that have just sparked that way, that have just happened that way, where it's like we meet on a job site, and next thing we know, we're both booking gigs together and shit like that. It happens. Yep. It happens, and it's that gentle tug. You learn to feel it, and like you said, waking up in the morning and realizing those things.
Yeah, and sometimes it's multiple things, not just like a one thing. A lot of the times it's not just one thing; it's a couple or 3 or 4 things. It's like and it's like, wow, that's amazing! I just figured this out, and I need to go do this or fix it this way. Or hey, I was wondering how that worked, or this should. Try that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it's not only those type things. Musically, it's been coming in the morning too. The same time frame. I wake up and it's like, dude, what was that? I was singing it in my dream. It was awesome or something. I'd even wake up sometimes and be like, dang, where's that pen and paper at? This is awesome. And I was asleep.
A dream journal is great. A piece of digital recorder by your bed, something like that is awesome. If I can give both of you an exercise, it's fun. Yeah, it's interesting. And it's literally creating your space in which to dream. And it's very much kind of like Superman with his Fortress of Solitude, like going out with the crystal and casting it. When you go to bed tonight, everybody, do this exercise. This will be your beginning of active dreaming. As you go to bed the next few nights, literally find your path to your spot. Find it like somewhere inside of you is a spot. There's a spot. Whether it's a spot by a lake, there's some spot to you that is utterly special. Find your place to that spot through a trail and build yourself a castle. And that's your dream castle.
Yeah.
And anything is possible inside that dream castle. And it'll take you a while. It's not going to happen in one night. It's not going to happen in one night. You're going to be hacking through jungle and stuff like that for a while before you find your spot. But as you go to sleep, actively make that meditation. Actively look for that. And then when you find it, start building your castle. Imagine your castle, your space, the way that you want it to be. And build that. If it's a huge geodesic dome like Epcot Center, make a fucking geodesic dome, dude. But that's your spot. And that's your place. And that's where you go to dream. And that's your world. And whatever happens in that world is you. And that gives you so much control over what happens as far as nightmares and things like that. It's a way that I dealt with night terrors for a long time, and I'm trying to get back to that place.
Just thinking
where I
about
have that.
Yeah, just thinking about having that dream is making me happy.
Yeah, it's amazing, but it really does bring you to that point of being able to focus on something as you go to bed.
I gotta try that. I gotta try that.
As you go to bed.
That's nice.
You know, one thing that I've tried before, Chris, I don't know if you've experimented with things like this before, but like frequencies while you're sleeping and stuff like
dude,
that.
I have an entire album that I wrote called Manipura, which I need to put up for sale, but it is literally a meditation on the chakras. And it has the it has the pure tone of each chakra in the background.
Really?
To where you can either repeat the album or you can repeat each track individually and meditate on just one chakra.
Ooh.
But I incorporate in my music a lot of brainwave theory. I use a lot of pure tone wave generation, things like that in the lower subliminal level of my music. And I've done that for a long time. And quite honestly, that comes from my love of The Exorcist. Because the soundtrack of The Exorcist and the ADR, the after film, Foley work that's done, there's so much that's done. It's so treated. It's so amazing. The sounds that they use that literally feed off psyche. The sounds of wasps in jars being reversed. The sounds of like pigs and sheep being slaughtered. Like whenever she's moaning, that's the sound of a pig or sheep being slaughtered, like slowed down like 10 times. It's freaking crazy.
That's
but
crazy.
It brings about all these just literal intense feelings inside.
Really does.
And that's what I've done with my music for years, and it's unnerving to a lot of people, I'll admit that, but I'm really proud of the oeuvre of work that I've put out there, because I've done that. I've done that as far as incorporating brainwave frequencies, rare earth frequencies. I did a whole album called Eclipse that was all the planets and the moons and the sun.
Did it have 7.83 in there?
It had every single frequency from all of the celestial bodies embedded in it. So,
nice.
Schumann resonance, all that kind of fun stuff.
Well,
and
that's interesting. It's 440 standard tuning, right?
Yeah.
That's standard.
Kind of like a love frequency, or maybe not. I might be.
Well, 440 is standard, but 443.
432.
Or 432, rather.
432 is natural harmonics. It's like the vibration. 432. Yeah, it's like the vibration of wood. It's the vibration of earth. It's just like the neutral frequency tone. Yeah. And ever since I've started tuning my guitar in 432, which has been just about 2 years, is I'm able to sing better. Like I'm able to get on key with what I play. And also when I just play standard, like GCD chords, and because that's always just soothing, or E and A, we're like run an E, run an A. Like with 432, it just sounds so relaxing, so much thoughtful. Like it's a thoughtful sound. I know that's not a very describing word, it's an adjective, but it's just which you can feel. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and that's something that I've done with my music for years, and it scares Alan whenever I've worked with him, because I'm a very much commit to the mix person. If I'm in the middle of a 15-minute long keyboard track and I screw up 13 minutes into it, I'm going to stop and rewind, and I'm going to do the whole keyboard track again. That's how I operate. That's how I work. That's how I'm comfortable. And to me, it was always I went to another space when I played my music, and whenever I did that. And it was something that was very sacred to me, my music, and even playing guitar. And now that I'm in a house and actually get to pull out, because I lived in apartments or I lived in shared houses where it was like a split level, stuff like that, always
limited.
Like if I pulled out and started playing the acoustic and singing on a Sunday morning at 8 o'clock, I was probably waking somebody up upstairs, because you guys have heard me sing. I tend to just kind of put it out there.
That's the way you should.
It's loud.
To sing from the gut, man.
Yeah, it's loud. So for me to have a house now and be able to do that, it's great.
That's dope.
I'm finding that I do that a lot more.
Hell yeah!
And it is something that to me was a dream, and that I manifested in dream. I manifest a lot of music that I write in dream.
Right.
Go ahead.
There's been times where I've had these crazy deep sleeps. Deep sleeps, and I am on another planet that I have no idea what it's called, or where it is, and I'm at a Muse concert with like 50,000 people, and they're playing Madness, and it's the extended uncut version.
How many times have you had this same dream?
I think you mentioned this previously.
Oh, just once.
It was just once, it's so vivid. I still remember it. But I woke up singing the extended version.
I remember you saying that,
and it doesn't exist. Yeah. But I was singing the extended.
Now, how did you know you were on another planet, though?
I just was told, like here you are on another planet with 50,000 people at a Muse concert, and then boom, I'm there at this concert.
The narrator told you.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, what was that manifesting? What was that talking about? What was that processing? From your brain, what was your brain thinking about and trying to process that it didn't get to process during the day?
For sure.
And the brain itself is something that we've still yet to fully understand. There is so little of the brain that is actually used, and the amygdala and the middle part of the brain is so integral to our actual reactions and how we react to things.
I've woke up before singing, talking, crying.
Yeah.
The one that really stands out the most was, dreams with my fiance, Jamie, who passed. Those were the most vivid.
Yeah.
And the most, it was like, I woke up just like, this was more than a dream.
Yeah.
This was just out there. This is,
it's
insane.
I remember it was the second night terror that I remember, like I said, the one with the entity at my bed was the one that was the first one that I remember, like, actively being awake and not being able to move or respond and still seeing something that, as far as I knew, was a dream. And I remember I had left work early, taken the next day off, and gone to meet my girlfriend at the time, Jen, at a beach house that her parents had rented. Her mom and stepdad. And I got there, I was tired. They were out doing stuff, Jen was there, whatever. And I decided to take a nap. One of many reasons I don't take naps is this reason.
You sleep through
even in the daylight.
There I am. It's this beautiful scene of dunes with reeds on it, outside the window. The window's thrown open. I'm asleep. And I'm dreaming about Jen being on a table in this library. And we've got just a few minutes here. I'm going to wrap this up, and we'll wrap it all up. But Jen was literally laying on this table in the middle of the library, and I'm like pulling books off for us to read and research. And I start hearing my grandfather play accordion. And I'm looking around the library trying to find my grandfather, running around the library trying to find my grandfather. And as I wake up, like, Jen isn't there anymore. I'm still running around. And as I start to wake and can't move, Jen is there trying to wake me up. The library is still around her, and I can see the dunes outside and still hear my grandfather playing accordion.
Wow.
And that was one of the most vivid dream experiences that I've ever had, where it was literally like I couldn't move, I couldn't breathe. My body was still paralyzed by the chemicals that your brain produces to paralyze your body so you don't hurt yourself when you dream. Like, that's a fact. That happens.
Did you take some mushrooms like 9 hours before that?
No. Yeah,
it
was an utter night terror where I woke up and I was still dreaming, but I was awake.
Mm-hmm.
And it was freaking creepy, man. It was absolutely crazy. And I've had a few instances like that since. I have very active dreaming, apparently, according to my wife.
Wow. Wow.
but I don't do a whole lot of dream work anymore, and I'm trying to get back into it. I'm trying to get back into using that other dimension that I take part in to find the answers, to look for what I'm looking for. And I've had to hack my way recently back through the jungle to MySpace, which is still there and needs some repair and needs some work. It's in a little state of disrepair, you know. It's like finding your grandparents' old house out in the woods. Probably needs a new roof.
Well, Facebook's in too, so.
I don't know if I ever shared this real quickly. My grandmother died before Jamie passed away.
No.
And she had a dream of my grandmother when she found out that she passed away. And she expressed this dream to me, and she saw my grandmother in a wheelchair, and she said it was very vivid to her. And my grandmother said to her, you know, tell Steven it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And it was 8 months later, then Jamie died. And it was I looking back, you know, and wish I knew what I knew now then, but you know, it's just how she expressed that dream. It was obviously very vivid to her, and it was impacting, and it was something to her that she seemed like it was more than just a dream.
Well, and the question comes to bear: are we open to these experiences? Are we open to the experience of active dreaming? Are we open to the experience of taking full part in that other dimension that's there, that's available to us? It's part of our mind. So if it's part of our mind, then by definition, we technically have control over it. And when you think about that, and when you think about the fact that, like, you actually have control over another dimension.
The masters of our own reality.
Yeah. You know, you really start getting into some deep stuff there, and you really start setting up for some deep concepts. And I'm glad that you brought this topic up tonight, man, because it's one of my favorites. I love talking about this kind of stuff. And to me, it is a paradigm shift. It does take looking at things from another direction and kind of trying to reposition yourself from where you are and taking that uncomfortable step to go somewhere that maybe you aren't familiar. And on that note, everybody, that's just about it for this episode. Episode 71.
Yeah.
Multi-dimensional brainness. Things like that. And hey, remember everybody, if you can't be good, be good at it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Dudes and Beer Podcast. To listen to our live audio streams, tune in at dudesandbeer.com or Spreaker.com/dudesandbeer. You can find our episodes on SoundCloud.com as well as the Google Play and iTunes market. You can also find us on YouTube, Stitcher, and your favorite podcast service. Dudes and Beer is a proud member of the Revolution Digital Group family of podcasts. Thanks for listening, everybody, and until next time, drink responsibly.